Hello and welcome back to the Squirrel Heed YouTube channel, and welcome to the very first review episode of the Premier League after this weekend. Now, first of all, let's have a look at Saturday's games, and one of the ones, and I'll hold my hands up, I'll hold both hands up. Now, if anybody predicted that Hull were going to beat Leicester, fucking well done. Like, because I predicted that they were going to get, I think, 3-0, 4-0 or something. I predicted that they were going to get beat by Leicester. I thought that Leicester had too much quality. I thought Leicester, obviously winning the league last season, it wasn't just a fluke, and they weren't going to miss Kante. I think I was wrong on all accounts. I was fucking shit. I was absolutely bollocks, and that's first prediction of the season out the way. I got it wrong. Apologies, Hull. No disrespect. I just didn't think you were going to pull out the bag. But what a fucking game that was. What an absolute game that was. Leicester did not look at the races, and I'll be honest, Leicester looked like they were outplayed in parts. About maybe 50% of the game. Like, I'm looking at the stats and stuff like that, saying that they got 50% possession and all this lot, and then they were starting to beat Leicester in possession. And obviously, Leicester haven't been a possession side. But then obviously people have been looking at Leicester like, how did they play? Well, they play mainly on the counter. So what do people do to counteract that? They mainly sit back, soak up some pressure, and then try and break on them. Hull didn't do that. Hull, in my opinion, they took it to Leicester. They just said, fuck it. Our club might be in disarray, but our fans don't deserve what is going on right now, and we're going to try and put on a performance. And that is exactly what they did, led by I think it was a man of the match performance by Robert Snodgrass, who was absolutely brilliant. If he can keep that up all season, if all their players can keep that up all season, they could be all right. This is why I haven't done my Premier League table prediction yet. I'm not doing my Premier League prediction before the transfer window closes, and it also gives me a little bit of a sign to see how the first couple of games are going to come off. So it gives me a bit of leeway to see how everyone's performing, but fuck me, Leicester. What the hell? I mean, you lost Kante, and they didn't start Mendy yesterday. I don't think he played yesterday at all. But they had some very talented players. Vardy couldn't seem to hit a barn door yesterday. I don't know what was going on there. Musa looked very petulant, looked like he was kicking out over little things here and there, pulling people to the ground and stuff, picking up stupid little things like that. Hull, full credit to you guys. Can you keep it up over a full season? Depending on what's going on, apparently it's rumoured that you are being taken over by whoever it is. It seems like the Chinese are going to come in and start buying every fucking club at the moment. But can you keep it up? If you don't bring any more players in, obviously there's still quite a bit of time. There's about maybe 2 weeks of the transfer window left. There is time. But if you don't, can you put in performances like that every single week? I'm not entirely sure. But very well done against Leicester. Leicester really need to pick their ideas up after this one. It is going to be a reality shock. And this is why probably most people are predicting to finish in between 7th and 10th this season, because most people will now have figured them out. If Hull have figured them out, again, no offence Hull, but what are the likes of Man United, Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool? What are all the big, like the big name clubs? Let's just call us that. What are all these big game players gonna do? I don't know. It could be very, very. Does Vardy now regret his decision to go to Arsenal? Who knows? Who knows? We'll see how the rest of the season goes. The next game that we had coming up on Saturday, on my list anyway, was Burnley at home to Swansea, and they lost 1-0 to Swansea. Swansea are a good team, no matter who they seem to sell. Like when they obviously, I think they've gotten rid of Gomes and they bring in Fernando Llorente. They brought in Leroy Fer, who scored the goal. Quite a rebounded one. Goalkeeper should have maybe done a little bit better than that, but I'm not going to Gary Neville it. Like it was a 1-0. As a lot of these games were this weekend, it's probably a lot of a feeling out process for teams to actually get going in the Premier League. But it was a 1-0 win to Swansea. Quite okay. 50-50 in some parts, but, you know, a good win for Swansea. West Brom against Crystal Palace was next, and it was at Selhurst Park. And Alan Pardew's search for a striker will need to continue, and it will need to pick up some pace pretty damn quickly, because they did look very ineffective. Balassi, just while he is a good player, he is a good player, no doubt, and he is actually apparently on his way to Everton for a medical today, with this being Sunday. So apparently the notification I had this morning was that he was on his way to Everton, on his way to Merseyside, I should say, to have a medical with Everton. Now, they've really got to look like Zaha looks pretty good, but they just haven't got an end product to actually like go on. Who's going to score those goals when they're doing a lot of providing? It doesn't look like they look very, very toothless yesterday. Whereas West Brom, Salomon Rondon looks like the exact player that they would need. Rondon looks like he looks like this could be his breakthrough season. Like, he had a pretty good season last season. Like, he had only come into the Premier League. That was his first season. Scored 10 goals, I believe, or something like that. He scored his first goal in his first game. If they keep doing anything like that, have that very solid defence and like unit at the back that West Brom always have, and have something going forward if they keep hold of Berahino and maybe do that whole partnership that they were talking about yesterday of Berahino and Rondon up front, that could be, it's like I say, I call it the little and large. The little and large partnership always seems to work. It really does work. Could work very well for those guys, especially the way that Tony Pulis likes to play. And it was a good, solid 1-0 victory to West Brom. Now, Everton versus Tottenham. I can't remember if I did predict this to be a draw, but I think I did. I haven't been back and watched what I've actually put. I just put what was in my mind at the time, and it did. It finished as a 1-1 draw. Obviously, Ross Barkley comes out and he scores this ridiculous free kick. It's like one of Willian's last year, when Willian went on this ridiculous fucking streak of scoring free kick after free kick after free kick. And it just seems like he was just not ever going to stop scoring free kicks. It was a pretty good one. Looks like he was actually aiming to get it on someone's head in the box. Hugo Lloris doesn't move, doesn't come out, expecting one of his defenders to deal with it. They don't deal with it, and it goes right in the right-hand corner. So it was 1-0 to Everton. Obviously, then Tottenham come back late on and score a goal, and they score it through Eric Lamela. And it was just a system change that they brought on. They took off Eric Dyer and they brought on Janssen, and it gave a bit more, less of a focal point on Harry Kane, and it actually helped the whole team come and play together and they played pretty well in the second half, but it did end up mustering out into a 1-1 draw. Probably a fair result on the run of play for both managers and both teams. Next up we had Middlesbrough versus Stoke, and Alvaro Negredo comes back into the Premier League and he scores within 11 minutes for Middlesbrough. Now that looks pretty good for Middlesbrough, to be honest with you. Like, they come up against Stoke, who can be a pretty difficult team to break down at the best of times. It really can be. And obviously Middlesbrough coming up and getting a draw in their first game back in the Premier League after quite a few years. I think 9 years was a figure that I'd heard. I might be wrong on that one, but that's just what I remember in my head at the moment. And they came in, and I think they played pretty well. They did play pretty well over the whole thing. Then obviously, like, you're looking at it thinking, wow, Stoke aren't really pulling much out of this. And then Shaqiri steps up. Now, I didn't think that Shaqiri was going to take the free kick because of where it was, and he's left-footed. It was on like the left-hand side of the box, and he's left-footed, and you're like, nah. But he was stood over it, and I think Arnautovic was stood there as well. And Shaqiri steps up with this fucking free kick. That could be like, that was an impressive free kick. Curls it over, like, round the wall or over the wall, curls it, hits the inside of the post and goes in. I think it was the inside of the post, but what an impressive free kick that was. It was and that's how it finished. It finished at 1-1, probably a fair result again for both teams, but cracking goal, absolutely cracking goal. I love that goal by Shaqiri, brilliant goal. Next up we have Southampton at home to Watford, and Watford came out within 9 minutes and Etienne Capoue had put them in front. But then the second half kicks in. Nathan Redmond, who's been put up front a bit more now, so it looks like he's been converted from being that winger that he was with Norwich, and he's been put up front more like he's probably going to be used like Southampton used Sadio Mane. He can play anywhere in the middle, so you can put him in that little midfield bit in number 10, or you can put him on the front line, and it seemed to work pretty well. He was getting himself about, really making himself, like, causing havoc in the defence, and then it really broke through when he slams one in. Well, he didn't slam one in, actually, like, he kind of like fizzed and bounced over the line a little bit. But it was a good goal, near the edge of the box and into the bottom left-hand corner. Again, another 1-1 draw that we saw a lot of yesterday, on Saturday, I should say. We saw a lot of that, but pretty fair results. Obviously, I then think Watford had Ben Watson sent off, which was unfortunate, but like totally unavoidable because first red card of the season on the first game day, not very good. And if I'm right, I think it was a straight red as well, so that could be pretty bad for Watford. But a 1-1 draw again. I keep saying it this week. I'm hoping we're going to get some better results over the course of the season than 1-1s every frigging game. But a fair result. And the final game of Saturday was Manchester City versus Sunderland. And I do have to say, Manchester City did get pretty lucky. Now, they got awarded a penalty. Could be argued that it was a soft penalty, but at the end of the day, it was a penalty. They got it. Sergio Aguero puts it in 4-0, and you're thinking, fuck, unlucky Sunderland, because this could really spark Man City into life. And it didn't, right? They played like how how Pep Guardiola teams play. They had a lot of possession. They just weren't incisive enough. Like, the opportunities weren't there enough, in my opinion, for Sergio Aguero. De Bruyne was taking on some crazy shots, looking frustrated and blasting them over the bar and stuff like that. Raheem Sterling got man of the match, which was weird. I didn't think he was the best player for Man City, but he did cause a bit of trouble here and there. You know, he always has a good couple of games, as we well know as Liverpool fans. He has a good couple of games. It's keeping that consistency up. Then we come into the second half, and one player you can never ignore, no matter how old he ever gets, Jermaine Defoe. Jermaine Defoe is fucking unreal. He scores, I think someone said, there was a stat that said this is the 16th season of his career in the Premier League that he has scored in. Fucking unbelievable, considering he went over to friggin' Toronto for a while, and he comes back. I think he's 33 now or something like that. He's still there. He causes havoc for defences because he can just turn. He's still quite agile, and he just has that eye for goal. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And it goes to 1-1, and Sunderland were doing all right, actually. They weren't doing too bad. Unfortunately, I think some sort of cross came in or whatever it was. I was watching it, and I was trying to figure out who scored the goal, and it was for Man City, and it goes 2-1, and it turns out it's an unfortunate own goal against Paddy McNair, and obviously he's going to get a massive slating off Man City fans coming from Man United and stuff like that, but it was unfortunate. The lad couldn't. There's those own goals you can't really do anything about. It's not like when you've got like us and you've got Carragher doing bullet headers into your bottom right hand corner. Oh God, you know that there's stuff like that you can't avoid, and it's unfortunate, and it was actually very lucky. Otherwise, that game was fizzing out into a 1-1 draw. There was no way in my mind. I didn't think, when I'm watching that game and I'm looking at it, I was thinking that's just going to be a 1-1 draw again. And it just happened. A good little bit of luck for Man City. Unlucky for Sunderland as well, though, that it goes to 2-1 and it's an own goal. Not the most deserved victory, but at the end of the day, if you win, it doesn't fucking matter how you win. That's the end of it. You see all over social media people saying that the way that they won, Pep has got them that was dirty football or something like that. Or not dirty football, but it's like it just wasn't effective at the moment. One thing that people have to remember with managers coming in, and the same goes for Mourinho coming back in to take charge of Manchester United, and Antonio Conte. It always depends how quickly the players that they've got pick up the methods that they want them to do. And at the moment, I think Pep Guardiola's system is vastly different to how Pellegrini does things. So he wants his fullbacks to do a lot more work than they would probably be used to be doing. Instead of, as Mourinho keeps saying, and Man United fans keep saying, that Van Gaal's system isn't that much different to Mourinho's. It's just Mourinho is way more incisive, and he is fucking unbelievable when it comes to wanting to win. He wants to win fucking everything. Nobody comes out and takes that Man United team from last year, adds in some very, very, very good players, and then says, I don't care what anybody else says, we want to win the fucking title this year. That's how confident he is. That's the difference right there. They played a similar sort of style. They're going to be solid defensively. It's going forward where they're going to make the difference, I believe. Man City are going to take a little bit of time to get used to that sort of possession style football, passing it about. And then Conte, again, he's got solid defenders that already had a pretty solid defence with Mourinho, and then remade solid under Goose Hiddink. And then obviously going forward, he's going to develop that even more. If he can have a solid back four, and a solid back five, I should say, with the goalkeeper involved as well, I just think that Guardiola's system and the way that he likes to play is a lot more different to how Pellegrini plays, and it might just take a little bit more time. But at the end of the day, they won, and that is the main thing for Man City. Coming on to the first game of Sunday, and we have just seen Bournemouth versus Manchester United, and I did predict that Man United were going to win. Not that I like predicting that they're going to win, obviously as our rivals and such like that, but I can't ignore the obvious. Like, when you have, even though Paul Pogba has ruined my fantasy team this week, and I completely didn't click on it until like this morning that Paul Pogba was banned. I'd set my team up and just thought, yeah, fuck it, yeah, great stuff. And anyway, Manchester United first half and stuff like that didn't look it was very quite even in some ways. You had Jordan Ibe obviously doing quite well in the first half, faded in the second half on his debut for Bournemouth in the Premier League. But Juan Mata pops up 40th minute and he scores. He basically, it looks like a defensive error. Goalkeeper looks out of sorts and Mata just smacks it in. Well, taps it in essentially. And it was pretty much, all right, well, 1-0 going into the break, 1-0. Not too bad for Bournemouth. Maybe expected. What I didn't expect in the second half, though, was Wayne Rooney to score a header and then Zlatan Ibrahimovic to pop up with this 30-yard along the floor, diagonal, right into the left corner. I knew, and I've said it for weeks, months maybe. I've said it so many times that Zlatan coming to the Premier League, I don't care how old he is, what leagues he's just come from, or his performances with Sweden, anything like that, Zlatan Ibrahimovic will score goals. He will score goals. People will say that he can be ineffective for 70 minutes, 80 minutes, 85 minutes. Who gives a shit? Because if in the 86th minute he comes up and pops up with a great goal or a winner, who cares? Who cares? Honest to God, who cares? And that's my main fear. And obviously I'm trying to look at it in a non-biased type of way. But when you've got someone like with that talent, with that sort of strike, with that presence, even when Wayne Rooney was put through for a chance when they were 2-0 up, I believe, and the ball like comes in the air to Zlatan, and instead of using his head, he fucking he uses like one of his classic kicks, and he back heels it in midair, like has his leg up about here, and just back kicks it over to Wayne Rooney, and Wayne Rooney unfortunately for Man United, didn't score the opportunity. But that's the type of stuff that Ibrahimovic gives you. He gives you that unpredictability that the Premier League hasn't seen in years. In years. Nobody plays like Ibra does. And that is what is scary. He's unbelievable. He is unbelievable. While I am a little bit jealous that Man United have him, they've started very well with a 3-1 victory against Bournemouth. Bournemouth got one back through Adam Smith, but it just wasn't enough. It was too little too late. Obviously, by that point, Man United can shut up shop and just basically probe and do what they want from there. It is a good victory for... I have to be honest, though, trying to look at it from a non-biased point of view, and that it is a very good victory for Man United, and it kicks them on. Yes, they didn't have Paul Pogba, and they still came out 1-3-1. People can say, yes, it was against Bournemouth. Bournemouth finished one place higher than Sunderland, and Man City have just struggled against Sunderland as well. Let's not forget that. Even though after all the stuff that I've just said about Guardiola needing a bit more time to bed in his ideas and stuff like that, Mourinho has come in, hit the ground running with players that he knew were going to do the job that he wanted them to do. Bringing in like Ibrahimovic, that Eric Bailey or Bailly, I don't know how you say his name, Mkhitaryan coming in late on, and obviously when you're getting into the 70th minute and you're taking Juan Mata off and bringing on someone like Mkhitaryan, the opposition defence has got to go, oh, fuck. It's something like that anyway. And then obviously they've got Paul Pogba to come in. So, I mean, they've got a lot of options. It's going to be really, really difficult to predict where these teams are all going to finish, but they've started well. Can they continue it? Unfortunately, I believe that they can. I do actually believe that they could do it. They've got a hell of a leader in Ibrahimovic, who will now take the spotlight off Wayne Rooney. You've got Mkhitaryan, you've got options on their wings now. While people are saying that Martial isn't looking the happiest of players of all time, it doesn't necessarily matter, to be honest, because then if anything's going wrong, you can bring in Memphis, or on the other side, you've either got Jesse Lingard and then you've got Mkhitaryan as well. They have options, and they can play anywhere in those midfield, depending on how they want to set up, or on the front lines, how they want to set up. They've got a lot of options, which is what they didn't have last season. Could be scary times to not be a Man United fan. But anyway, very good victory for Manchester United. Now, regarding the Liverpool versus Arsenal game, I've already done a video for it. If you haven't seen it, go check that one out. Now, I'm not going to point to where it will be in this video because it flips, so I don't exactly know where it's going to be. But hopefully, there's going to be a link somewhere around my head somewhere to go check that out on the other channel. It's a 10-minute video, might be a little bit longer, can't remember, but I'm always going to do separate videos for Liverpool games, and obviously it was a firecracker of a match, probably match of the weekend. Arse on the edge of the fucking seat all the time. I don't think I've got any nails left, but go check out that review as soon as you can. If you want to check it out, please do. Drop a like on that video as well, because I really enjoyed making it. And then the very first MNF of the Premier League season, and it was Chelsea versus West Ham, which build. If you're looking at those teams from last season and how Chelsea are obviously wanting to improve themselves and, you know, make up for last season and being apparently the worst defenders of a Premier League title ever, I think that is still fact, despite them finishing 10th in the league last season, versus West Ham, who you're looking at having Dimitri Payet and bringing those new signings that they've got, the likes of Feghouli and stuff like that, and people being pushed forward, looking at being very, very positive footballing that they've got, and it just didn't happen. It just didn't happen. Now, what I do have to say is I didn't get to catch the whole match. I didn't get to see the whole thing in its entirety because unfortunately, I had a prior engagement. However, I did manage to track down the rest of the match. After watching the highlights, I was like, well, I've got to watch the rest of it because there wasn't actually a lot of highlights. So Chelsea come out 2-1 victors, and it looks like on the spread of things on the opening weekend of the season, stuff like that, that most of the results that we had were like people winning by 1-goal margins. The only team that won by more than that was actually Manchester United, and then we obviously looked like we could have won by a 3-goal margin, but we didn't. That's just classic though, isn't it? And then obviously you've got Chelsea versus West Ham, and you're looking at it on the face of things with how Antonio Conte has been doing and the way West Ham have been doing in recent seasons, well, last season primarily, and how they've done against the bigger teams in the league and also cup games and everything like that. You thought it was going to be an absolute cert to be a brilliant match, but it wasn't, to be fair. It really wasn't. Payet comes on in the 67th minute, and I'm thinking, if he'd have just started, the game seemed to change a lot when he came on. It really did. So obviously we're looking, Eden Hazard gets a penalty, 47th minute, slots it home, first goal of the season for him, which is very much an improvement on his last season performances when it took something like 1,900 minutes for him to score his first goal. It's only taken him 47. So kudos, Hazard even. I forgot your fucking name, never mind. After that though, 77th minute, you've got James Collins comes up and scores for West Ham, and it's like looking like it could be just a 1-1. It could be a 1-1 draw, but then this is what happens, and whether you like him or whether you don't, and it does show the combining play that you could get with Batshuayi and Diego Costa. Batshuayi with the assist, Diego Costa with the goal. Now, it is arguable to say that should Costa have been on the pitch to score the goal? My opinion, no, he shouldn't have. And that's not me being like a Chelsea hater or whatever or something like that. If that tackle actually did cause damage and he didn't get sent off, that would have been ridiculous. It's one of those, it's not meant to be, if he breaks his leg it's a red card. It's if he has got the intent behind. Now people are saying that he didn't intentionally do it. That shouldn't necessarily matter, because if you're sliding in that high on someone's foot, and that was like halfway up his shin, which is the prime place where, and we've seen enough broken shins and stuff like that. If you're into MMA and if you've been watching the Olympics and other football, like Demba Ba breaking his leg, I've seen that leg break in that place so many times, and it's just a cringeworthy challenge, and it shouldn't be happening. But that's the two sides of Diego Costa. He is a talented footballer, and he does come up and pops up with some really, really good goals. But he's a bastard as well. He is an absolute twat. There's no other way to describe it. But that's what you get with Diego Costa, unfortunately. And it does mean that Chelsea have come out with a win. They've started exactly how they probably wanted to this season. Can they continue that? Maybe, because they are going to look a bit more solid under Antonio Conte. West Ham, they don't get firing when Payet isn't there. When Payet isn't in the team, they just do not fire. They don't seem to be able to pull it together like they do when he is in the team. And that is something they've either got to try and solve, or they have to make sure that somehow they keep Payet fit and he can play all of the games that they're going to need him for, because when he does come on, like with France, they all seem to play through him, or like he is dictating how they play, and he is that good of a footballer, he can do that. But when he's out of their team, they don't have anybody that can slot in there or share that responsibility, and that's something that West Ham may have to look at, because they did have very good league form and cup form as well last season, but once Payet was out of that team, it just wasn't happening. Something that they're going to have to look out for in the coming weeks and the coming months of the Premier League. Anyway, that's my roundup of the Premier League. As I said before, the Liverpool review, the full one I've done, is in either the link, it should be in the link below by now if you didn't get to click on it later on, but I'll probably leave an annotation around here somewhere just before the video ends to go click on that, check that out. I was ecstatic at the time, but I obviously fairly looked at it tried to look at it in a non-biased way as well. I hope you've enjoyed this very first round of videos for the Premier League. This is what I will be doing every single week as much as I can. If I miss any, I'm going to put a video out there saying why I can't possibly do it. But I will always try. If I don't have it with the graphics, I'll do it on my iPad. If I'm out and about, I'll take a video with my iPad, upload it. We'll still get some Premier League preview and review action. If you've enjoyed this video, please do like the video. It honestly does help us so much. Comment as well what you think. I like to hear your thoughts, everything that you've got to say about the Premier League this weekend. Aren't we glad that it's back though? Like, I enjoyed making those Euro videos. I really did enjoy making those Euro videos. It just isn't the same as when the Premier League is back in action. It really isn't, and that's why I love it. Please like the video, subscribe if you're new around here. You'll get every little bit of content. I'm at least obviously guaranteeing you about 4 videos a week, not including the gaming videos, which I am behind on at the moment. Couple of reasons for that. I'm not going to go into it, but I am behind on those. They are still coming. The Wonder Boy series, everything like that, they are coming. You'll get all of that content as well, as consistent as I can. So if you'd please like the video, I keep asking you, I am sorry, but please like the video, subscribe if you're new around here, leave some comments in the boxes below, get on Twitter as well, @SquirrelHeed, and I'll catch you later.